Well, it's a new day in Kansas City. I mean, you still have Patrick Mahomes in town, Travis Kelce. All that's fine and good. No more Tyreek Hill. And they end up getting 3 picks in this draft from the Miami Dolphins for that, meaning they have quite the haul here, Mr. Flosterdamus.
Yeah, this is proof positive of why you should never pay a receiver like that because they will replace him in short order much cheaper. And this is what happens when you sign your quarterback to a gigantic extension like that. This is what smart teams do. Smart teams like Kansas City replace guys like this with draft capital. Dumb teams chase the guy that they're paying for what they did 3 years ago. Not saying that's Miami, not saying it's not Miami.
2 picks in the first round for the Kansas City Chiefs, both back-to-back, one at 29, one at 30, with the 29th overall pick. The Kansas City Chiefs will take Christian Watson, the wide receiver out of North Dakota State.
Hey, replace one really fast receiver with another really fast receiver. The difference between the two, this one's 6'5". I mean, I love Christian Watson. If there's a drawback to him, it's that he doesn't always catch the ball well. I feel like that is exaggerated. He had big drop problems when he first got to North Dakota State. He only had 2 last year. So, yeah, there are times that he lets the ball get into his body. To me, that is not that difficult of a thing to fix. Here's what he does incredibly well. Run by you. Oh, and even if you can keep up with him, he's one of the better 50-50 ball catchers in this class. Long arms. There's really nothing to not like, and I'll be honest with you, the more I've thought about this, he fits in Kansas City perfectly because they used him out of the backfield at North Dakota State. He's a really good ball carrier, too. Jet sweeps, reverses, all the gimmicky Kansas City Chiefy type things. I think he's a perfect fit. And I'll be honest with you, within a year, I fully believe you'd go, well, I mean, Tyreek was great. We love Tyreek. But we're fine. Oh, and we have 2 more picks that we haven't even talked about yet.
Exactly. At number 30 overall, here you go, an edge rusher, David Ojabo, who just tore his Achilles tendon at his pro day out of Michigan.
It would have been a top 15 pick. Had it not been for that. And that's what happens when you build up draft capital like this. You can be the team that stops the drop. David Ojabo should not be here at 30. Now, look, he's raw, but the best way to fix a raw pass rusher is put them on the opposite side of Frank Clark and Chris Jones and just go, hey, go get quarterback. That's all I got to do. He's not bad against the run. There were some times that he was out of position. Kid doesn't have the greatest depth of experience. I mean, at Michigan, he played 560 snaps total.
Right.
1 year, he does kind of have the 1 year wonder thing, but he was on the Bruce Feldman freak list, which I reference a lot because he's a freak of nature. He's 6'5", 250, ran a 4.55, and look, you know, Achilles injuries are bad. When we first started doing this, our third was Nate Brown, former Philadelphia Eagle, former North Carolina Tar Heel. We couldn't even say the word Achilles because he ruptured both of his. It's not the same sentence that it used to be. I think David Ojabo will be fine. I think he will play this year. Might be the second half of the regular season. Perfect fit in Kansas City. Ideal pass rusher.
2 picks in the second round for the Kansas City Chiefs. At number 50, in the second round, Damone Clark, the linebacker out of LSU.
You just add more. Just add more. Add more. I love Willie Gay. I was high on Nick Bolton in the draft last year. That was one of those picks, and somebody referenced this in our comments of you do mock drafts and you just keep putting players with teams. I did that with Nick Bolton last year with Kansas City, and I feel like Damone Clark may be that this year. I am higher on him than we'll say some because he never misses tackles. He is a great tackler. Other than that, he doesn't do anything elite, but he's such a good athlete, and I just know if he gets his hands on a guy's going down. Super athletic, 4.5 in the 40 at 6'3", 245. So ideal linebacker size, very movable. And you just look at what Kansas City's doing. Everybody's really harped on the fact they lost Tyrann Mathieu. And that's going to be a negative, but how do you circumvent that? Kind of the same way the Arizona Cardinals did when they lost Tyrann Mathieu. Just get faster. Just get guys that you can move around, an interchangeable piece, and that's what Damone Clark can be.
At number 62 overall, still in the second round here, Wan'Dale Robinson, the wide receiver out of Kentucky. You want to talk about a terrible tandem of rookie wide receivers here. Pair him up with Christian Watson. You got something going.
This may be my favorite player in this draft. He's certainly my favorite player in how I view him compared to how the industry views him. Just get the ball in his hands. I've said this about Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks can be a really big version of Deebo Samuel. Wan'Dale Robinson can be a small version of Deebo Samuel. And I think he's a better athlete. He's just not as big. 5'11", 185, so he's a small receiver. Doesn't have the huge route tree. Kentucky ran him out of the backfield. He was a running back until a couple years ago. Started at Nebraska. Things didn't go particularly well there because, well, let's face it, when do they? It's Nebraska.
Right.
I don't hold any of that against him. He went to Kentucky. He screamed on film in the SEC. I think a smart team is going to take him and go, he's super raw. He's still learning the position, but he has no bad habits. And we're going to get the ball in his hands. He's going to be dynamic. And I've already watched Andy Reid use a small receiver that was really athletic to the heights of their potential. And I think he would do it again with Wan'Dale Robinson.
2 picks in the fourth round for the Kansas City Chiefs. At 121 overall comes the first one, Jalen Wydermyer. Oh, excuse me. I skipped two. I skipped 2. Wow, I skipped the third round. I went straight to the fourth round. In the third round, 2 picks there as well. 94 overall, Coby Bryant, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. The less heralded of the corners coming out of Cincinnati, but he was an award winner.
He's a fantastic corner. I think he is going to translate as one of those corners that comes in and you see virtually instantaneously what he's going to be. I think he's a 2 in this league. He got picked on at times because Sauce Gardner was on the opposite side of him. He's not the crazy athlete. He's a very good coverage corner. He has limitations. Speed receivers are going to mess with him. But if you were building a corner out of granite, he would look like Coby Bryant. I wish he was a little faster. At times, his feet and his brain didn't really appear like they worked in concert with one another. These are all just round them off kind of things. There's no sweeping, he can't do this. He's not as twitchy as you want, but I'm not going to ask him to play in the slot. I'm going to ask him to play on the bigger, more physical of 2 receivers that's not as fast, that's not going to blow by him, because I think he's very good in press. And I think he's one of the few corners I look at and go, you can come – that's not a first-round guy, that you can come in and play immediately and be a starter in this league. Had a great Senior Bowl. Would be an ideal – this would be the perfect first 5 picks for the Kansas City Chiefs.
103rd in the third round, JoJo Domann, linebacker from Nebraska. So 2 linebackers now.
Kind of.
Okay.
He's kind of a linebacker. He's every bit as much a slot corner as he is a linebacker. Very small to play linebacker in the league. He's 6'1". He weighed in at 226 at the combine, and I'll be honest with you, if he's 226, I'm 286, and I'm not. He's going to play that JOK kind of role that we talked about last year with the Cleveland Browns. He's going to be every bit as much slot corner as he is linebacker. Nickel sub guy, pairs really nicely with Nick Bolton, and it just keeps that rotation going. This is a player that the right coordinator is really going to enjoy. I'm probably higher on him than most because what I've learned in doing this as long as I have, people try to put every player in a box of this is what you're going to be, and you can only fit here. Smart teams don't do that. Baltimore Ravens don't do that. Kansas City Chiefs don't do that. The teams that you see in the playoffs year in and year out don't do that. They look at a guy and go, that's a football player. I'm going to find a way to use him. And I think Kansas City would do that.
Now to the fourth round, a 121 overall. Kansas City Chiefs in our post-free agency 7 round. Jalen Wydermyer, the tight end out of Texas A&M.
This is a player that hurt himself as much at the combine as anybody. Look, the tape on him, much like I will say about damn near every player that played Texas A&M, he is more talented than the film would lend itself. Then he goes to the combine and runs a 4.7. Well, his claim to fame was that he was this athletic freak. Well, he plays faster than he actually is. Now, very rarely do you see a tight end and go, well, the best thing he does is go deep. All right, you're trying to replace Tyreek Hill. You've already got Christian Watson, who, yes, there's a level of competition problem that you're going to have to acclimate him. You're going to have to teach Wan'Dale Robinson to play receiver. This is just another piece. I know they have Noah Gray. I know they have Travis Kelce. I'm well aware of that. This is, I have a war chest of picks, and I have to make sure my offense stays as dynamic as it was. There's not a lot of places that I would have Jalen Wydermyer going in the 4th round. Now, I don't think he's going to fall to the 7th like Daniel Jeremiah and a couple others do. He was never a 2nd-round pick. He was never a 7th-round pick. This is the meaty clacker of where he's going to go. His career in the NFL is going to depend on who uses him. Andy Reid, I feel great about how that's going to go. Adam Gase, I wouldn't feel so great about how that was going to go. Good thing he's not in the league anymore. Thank God, as a Jets fan. Thank Jesus. Very raw. Yeah. He's more raw than you would want him to be for a guy that played over 2,000 snaps in college. That being said, I look at a lot of players. Texas A&M's the school that I don't harp on about this a lot. It's usually USC and Tennessee, where they recruit well, they bring these guys in, and they don't ever get any better. They win because they have a talent sufficiency against any team they play, outside of the Alabamas and the Georgias. Those are the tapes that Jalen Wydermyer gets held against him, and I don't really think that's fair. Quarterback play was a problem. You put him with Pat Mahomes, I think he's going to be, for what he would be in Kansas City, I think he would be an elite 7th option. Which, are you feeling better about Tyreek Hill not being there yet? Just look around at what you're adding here.
Right. And I don't even think we've mentioned JuJu Smith-Schuster's name.
No, we haven't. Haven't said it one time.
They did add him in free agency and on a steal, too, like $3 million. Thought he was.
It was 10.
Was it 10?
Yeah, it was 10.
Okay. Maybe I was looking at his base salary or something for this year. At 135 overall, Neil Farrell Jr., defensive tackle at LSU.
There's a whole damn lot of him. Very good against the run. Not as great of a tackler as you would like him to be at 6'4", 325. Ran slow because, of course, he did. He's a double wide. This myth that defensive tackles have to run 5 flats to be impact players is dumb as hell. And I just look at the tape on him and go, there's a lot of flexibility with him. A lot of people think he has to be a nose. I don't agree with that. Just because you're not hyper athletic and you're 325 pounds, that does not mean you can't play on the interior in a 4-3. What do you need? A guy like Chris Jones to be paired with you, because he's the hyper athletic pass rusher, and you just have to clean up the nonsense that you have to clean up the havoc that he creates. I think it would be a nice pairing, and this is a year or two down the road.
Okay. I just looked it up while you were talking there. That was the base salary for JuJu Smith-Schuster's deal was $3.25 million this year. Incentives can take it up quite a bit.
And they're going to, because he's the one dependable option they have right now, obviously outside of Travis Kelce.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Quandre Knight with pick number 234 in the 7th round, so no 5th, no 6th for the Kansas City Chiefs, but they got a bevy of picks in the 7th round. 234 overall, Quandre Knight, the safety out of UCLA.
Way more athlete right now than he is actual football player. You can craft this kid into anything you want him to be. He was a safety at USC. He can play linebacker in the NFL. He would have to add good weight. 6 foot, 200-ish pounds, ran a 4.5. He's just freakishly athletic. Big hitter. I think would be, worst case scenario, is a special teams ace in the NFL. Now, is he going to, if you put him in the back half right now, he will get absolutely abused. But if you treat this as a project, a player that 2-3 years down the line, I'm going to be able to use when we start doing this reshuffling the decks because we have a $50 million quarterback. I do think he projects I project him as a strong safety in the league, in the box guy, where I just use the fact that he can knock your damn head off. If he never amounts to that, he can be a great special teams player for many years.
At 244th overall, you've always had a thing against Kansas City running backs. But
that's because Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of the biggest reaches I've ever seen.
But you give him one here, and this guy's very speedy, would fit nicely in that Kansas City offense. Jerrion Ealy out of Ole Miss.
Did not run well at the combine. 4.52 at 5'9", $185 is terrifying. But I do think the comp to him for me has always been Darren Sproles, because he's not a great pass blocker, but he's so scary coming out of the backfield that it mitigates some of the risk that they're going to downhill just blitz their teeth off coming at him. He plays faster than what I saw him run. I don't really care how fast you can straight line run a 40. Very shifty, very twitchy, fits in the scheme very well. I think would be a nice compliment passing down back, with the possibility that maybe that expands. Very dangerous with a draw. That's what Lane Kiffin used him just perfectly. You would get so scared of him ending up on a linebacker that you spread the defense out. Well, when you would do that, you just send the hog mollies barreling down, and him in space is dangerous.
The third of 4 picks in the 7th round comes at number 252 overall. Logan Bruss, offensive tackle from Wisconsin.
Swing tackle, athletic kid. I think he can play tackle in the NFL. He's 6'5", 315. He's not super athletic. He's in a phone booth kind of blocker, but a lot of people have projected him as a guard, and I get it. I see where I think that's his floor. His floor is that he's a depth piece guard. Now, his ceiling, on the other hand, I think he can play right tackle in the NFL. You're just going to have to develop him. The athletic ability is never going to be there. The question is, can you use the physical tools and the physicality and the strength as a strength? If you ask him to, like San Francisco probably doesn't even have this kid on the board because he cannot do that. Kansas City, on the other hand, well, you made it work pretty well with Orlando Brown. So, project, but I do think he can play tackle in the league.
And with the 12th and final pick of the 2022 NFL Draft for the Kansas City Chiefs at 260 overall, Austin Deculus.
Mulleted man. Not overly athletic. He is what he is going to be, but I do think if you were in a pinch and he had to play right now, it wouldn't be the worst thing that ever happened. Played tackle at LSU, very much projects as a guard in the NFL. Very strong. I mean, freakishly strong. Just not the athlete. He looks like a left tackle. The problem is he is so lead-footed that he would get absolutely abused in the NFL. Now, guard, I'm not as worried about that. This is not a project. This is the exact opposite of what I just said about Logan Bruss. This kid is exactly what he's going to be. And I think it's a 7th, 8th offensive lineman in the NFL. Can play multiple spots. If you had to put him on the right side, you would have to take care of him, but he could do it.
The Sportsocracy 2022 post-free agency mock draft for the Kansas City Chiefs. They got 12 picks, so you got a lot of, you got some holes to fill. Well, you got all the capital in the world to do it with.
This would be my first ever A++ grade in all the years I've been doing this. If you like these picks, if you don't like these picks, comment them in the comments. Tell me what you think. If there's a player you would like to know how they fit with the Kansas City Chiefs, you can comment that as well. I go through and answer those every day. And if you just look at it and go, hey, that mulleted ginger's a dipshit, and you think you can do better, fire that away, and I'll grade yours too.
Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Get all of our team-by-team content here throughout the Draftmas season. The, again, Kansas City Chiefs post-free agency 7-round mock draft. From Tank Spencer and Jeremy Greene, we are the Sportsocracy and always come to you from the Ingles studio. Low prices, love the savings. We will see you next time.